start as you mean to go on. That's what I say. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new season of Sitrep Podcast. Hello, Mr. Jim. Jim's already in the house, so Sitrep team is on point tonight. We have a couple of representatives kicking around. I hope you're all very well. I hope you're all keeping safe out there, not getting too lax, and look forward to another season with the team. So, I was going to be painting tonight up until I made contact, and then the plan fell apart basically. So, Sergeant Sitrep, sadly, became a casualty of war last night. How best to put this? His resin bath leaked, and thankfully it didn't destroy my 3D printer. It was only a small leak, but it punched through the film layer on the resin bath. Not him specifically, I think it was just wearing out, and I don't have a spare currently, but managed to clean it up. I got him out, had a look at him, and he kind of looked like a melted boot. The supports had given in certain places, so he'd kind of all slid down. In fact, he looked like the chemical waste guy from RoboCop that comes out and gets hit by the car. So not the best look for him, or maybe even a napalm bath. Kind of looked like that. But hey ho, we move along. So rather than, I was going to cobble together like a short tutorial for doing some weapons. I even pulled out a couple of very small ones. It's probably not going to on. There we go. So a couple of rifles with bayonets on, etc. But my hands are prettier than my face anyway, so don't worry about it. I felt that was kind of half-arsed, if I'm honest. It would have been a last-minute thing. It's something I cover in pretty much all the stuff we've done for the 13 days equals 13 hours. Instead, I figured I'd come online for a chat. So thankfully Jim's in to talk to me, which is rest in peace, Sergeant Sitrep. Yeah, another casualty of the 3D printer war of terror. I've had quite a few of those casualties, to be fair, that I've had to cook in daylight before I could throw them in the bin. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the last either. So with that in mind, waiting on the new films coming through. As soon as they come through, we'll get him back in the printer. It's like cloning, isn't it? And produce another one to come back out. Instead, what I thought I'd talk about is, I did a brief video last week with what you would like to see. We've got some responses, which I'll go through, which is pretty cool. We've also still got a poll going on Facebook, so if you check out the Sitrep Podcast page on Facebook, you'll see at the top of the page is pinned like a popularity poll. And what we're doing is we're looking at what the next project is going to be. 13 days equals 13 hours is not finished yet, but the majority of the miniatures are done. Jim's smashed out the transit game. He just has a few last bits that he wants to tidy up, or the last tweaks here and there, before we start doing some play testing and then see how that goes. The team itself in the US have started gathering pieces for the table. I think Marty's got enough cork now to float the Titanic. So when it comes to doing the walls and such, he's going to put together some tutorials. So we're going to start seeing some scenery building. That'll probably be on the Anything Goes Thursday nights. So yeah, check out the new sort of 3 timings. Big Jim Oriskini's up there Sundays. He's smashing out the historical, some hex-based games and some other stuff. As I am now, going to be Tuesday nights. These will not be live as often as they were before. Something that we can arrange. My work at the moment has changed me to a sort of a week on days, week on nights. So it'd be about getting a consistency. It'd be very difficult. The idea is for me to pre-record, do some voiceover stuff, generate some tutorials, generate more content, maybe in smaller bites. I've been having a look at the algorithms for what sort of people want. We've been producing start to end paint jobs, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it took. I think the algorithms really run at 15 to 20 minutes. So with that in mind, I've started to sort of update myself and how I'm going to approach everything that we do. Or I do. Time for a quick slurp. hope you've got your brews in hand, be it a cup of tea or something far more strong if you're from the US of A. Yeah, the 13 days equals 13 hours, as Jim has put onto the chat to my right, which is why I'm looking across it with my wide eyes, because it's really small. It doesn't help me focus wide in my eyes, so I've no idea why I do that. The timeline has been set. We're doing it on the anniversary of the event to pay homage to those that fell, and hopefully we will no doubt do it some justice when it comes to our perspective, because we've been building up to this for quite a long time, and that the gaming community and our followers enjoy the content. Like I say, more to come. It's not going to stop there, which is why we have the poll up for the next project. So it's all going to be frantic very soon. I imagine that I'll start painting some of the stuff that the people who responded to my call to arms last week have put to fill in the gaps, while the Thursday night content will be mainly the building of the table by Gianna and Marty. Where to begin? So I wanted to get my videos to a better place, both visually, so sort of a rolling intro, similar to what we do on these, because I kind of don't have the tech savvy that the rest of the team has, so I've been learning that side of it. The OBS Studio, I know, I think it is Jim's favourite platform. Jim will be spitting at the screen right now as he swears that it's definitely not, because it's not. So I've managed to get my head around that. I want to get into the other aspects, so I've downloaded a few things over the last couple of days. Most of them free for now, just to get a feel for the basic tools available to me. So stuff like Audacity, the audio editor. I've been playing with that today, which is really cool. I went a different way. I bought a lapel mic to do narratory rather than voice during, because I'm not set up for sound, as you can probably hear, and I wanted it to be a little clearer, a little crisper. And the best way to do that was to go with a lapel mic for me financially and for what I want to achieve. So pick one up, plugged it in today, and yes, I need to put like the old sound curtains and such up in this room if I use this room for narratory. But what I have found is by plugging that into my phone, which has a much better reception system than my laptop or the camera that I use, it actually records really nice and clear without the background noise being picked up. It must have a better filtration system, as you can imagine a phone would. With that in mind, I recorded some stuff today and then laid it up with the video editor which I've got, which was OpenShot, another free one. And just side by side, a quick description of like a model. It was literally a minute and a half. And it came out really nice. I was really happy with the content of the camera. I was really happy with the content of the audio. And I was able to cut and move around stuff. So it's getting there. It's not quite there yet, and I'm hoping by next week I'll either start Sergeant Sitrep then, or have produced a tutorial test for you guys to have a look at, which could be something as simple as painting the guns, which as a test for that wouldn't be a cop-out. I don't want to put an hour to 2 hours in, or a broken number of parts in to then find that the content just wasn't what we were looking for, wasn't what I was looking for, and worse, what you guys don't like, and get comments back that wasn't very good at all. So I will work on that, and hopefully bring you a better overall package in many ways. Should disappear, the as I'm able to cut the audio and do the narratories, so it'll be single sentences with a bit of maybe ambient music or something at a lower tone. See, another terrible for it. Even when I concentrate, I say it, it's become a gap filler in my life. Could be worse, I could say like, because that comes out a lot in the UK. OBS Studio, we have come to an uneasy peace. The Oriskany OBS Cold War has begun. So Oriskany's pulling out the agent handlers, the assassins, the the spy element of his arsenal of troops in his house to go and deal with OBS remotely or through hacking, I think. But it seems like they've got a white flag of peace in the air, so it's all gone underground. So talking through The other new things, I bought a new cutting mat. It's great. It's on my table currently. I will, if I'll pan down to see the black and white checks. It's a great bit of kit. The only problem, should have looked at the size when I ordered it. Oh no, I'm gonna have to convert it into inches, aren't I? So on here it's A1. It's an A1 size mat, which is bigger than my table by. I can even know how much bigger than my table is just by looking at the sides. So 3, 4. It's about 6. It's about just over 2 inches bigger than my table that way. Which means if I cough hard, the camera will move because my belly will knock it into the camera stand. Interesting times. I've got a couple of options. I can just cut it down. I can bear with it. I can tape it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think what I'll just do is pull the table a bit away from the wall, push it so it's flat to my side, and then just tape this side up with some some black gaffer tape. You guys, crazy Americans, call it. What do you call it, Jim? What's the tape? Duct tape. Duct tape. Black duct tape. I don't know if it's the same thing or not. Just to keep it still. The thing is, it's weird because you get a cutting mat and when it's new, I don't want to do anything on it because if I do something on it, I'll muck it up. It'll become dirty. become marked. It'll break me up a bit inside. I like it when it's nice and clean. The other good thing is it's grey on the other side with white lines. It's a double-sided one, which also I didn't know. It pays to read the label, doesn't it? Eh? But happy days. It's bigger than I needed. It's double-sided, and it's definitely going to get used. I did some camera work with it today. It shows up quite well, so fingers crossed that'll carry on. Now, what do I want to go on to next? I think we'll go on to the poll. So I want to talk through the poll because that's going to be the next project. We have to invest money into doing the projects that you'll see, such as 13 days equals 13 hours. We've recently closed down the Patreon, which if you were listening to the episodes, G talked about on there. So when it comes to getting the right thing to meet what you guys are looking for us to cover, I think it's good that we chat because that money comes out of our pockets. The current poll is 3 different gaming systems, different time periods. We've expanded now from modern to historical as a whole, like all of history. Let's go back. Hey, welcome to the first view and brew of the new season. I think was the last one. I think this is the first official one because the new episode's only just come out. The last one was kind of a, an in-between, keep you going, a few minutes. This one's just going to be a few minutes longer. It's kind of the second. The last one was just me freaking out in the build-up to one. I've been that long, I needed to make sure everything still worked. I've not ruined all the settings. Duct tape is like the Force. It has a dark side and a light side, and it binds the universe together. There you have it. From and being a historical expert, he knows his history, therefore he knows also the history of the universe. So he was there when the duct tape was applied, and they scraped all them little dots to be the stars in the sky. It's black on that side, you see, and it's got a white layer underneath. According to Jim Riskany, the history of the universe. Just saying. Don't doubt Jim. The way off topic. The three items currently in the poll are pirates, feudal Japan, and the Old West. And these kind of things that came from us initially because we are not just going to cover the moderns anymore. We wanted to move into historical. It's such a big area to move into. We kind of needed a number of focal points. We chatted as a group. I think it's in the episodes as well, what we kind of came together with. And sort of the areas we didn't quite want to cover as well. Now, we've also got stuff from the guys, such as Mr. Skoback, who's kindly joined us today. Star Wars is historical. It takes place a really long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Well, next should be 40k in Jim, eh? Um, so Scoreback was one of the first ones to post back, mainly when we were streaming, I believe, asking for what sort of content he'd like to see in the future. And I think this was before we sort of talked about moving into the historical stuff. That being said, what we discussed and what we came to was some sort of World War III coverage. And I, I am more than happy to pick up the British box set from, say, Team Yankee to cover that sort of era and that footage. I know the footage, was footage even the right word there? Who knows? It's going to have to be the British for me, I'm afraid. Normally I do go with one of the foreign nations for no other reason than they generally are what my friends won't pick. So I've got somebody to play against that's got a different force than me. It's normally my friend Mark. I let him go first because, to be honest, I don't care most of the time. But this one's got Lynx aircraft in, which I really like. Had a bit of time on them, so it'd be a bit of nostalgia for me to go back and do that force. I know, Jim, I think you were talking about maybe picking up the Americans at some point. I don't know if that was just something that you were sort of kicking around, or if that was a genuine, what did you want? Oh, you're still trying to find 28mm East German Cold War stuff as well. So Scoreback's still on the hunt himself. See, here's another reason for me to have British. Although 28mm, I'd have to scale up somewhat. I think once you get to 28mm though, with armour and such, surely you're kind of actually looking at just mainly having troops, an infantry-based city sort of warfare or urban, combat just from the ranges point of view. So Jim's posted up as well. He's got the 15mm Soviet infantry from PSC, and he's painting them in the desert colours to proxy as 1991 Iraqis. There you go. That'll be an interesting one to see how they take the paint, and if they read well as the Iraqis. So there's always something out there. There's always something you can proxy. It's amazing what paint can do to change the visuals to the point where you don't actually recognise that they weren't meant to be for that. So looking forward to seeing that, Jim. Looking forward to your video content of you doing that. Yeah? Evil laugh, guys. Because Jim always has loads on his plate, so I'm more than happy for him to add it to the list as well. He's hoping to go 15mm, I can get away with it. So Scoreback was the first one to rock in. Since then, we've also had Chris Long. If you check out the Facebook page, we shall have mentioned him often. Some of the updates and such you'll see. Chris Long being one of the founding members of Sitrep, who stepped away for a little bit, not in content, just in the podcast, I think. He regularly posts up stuff, Walkabout Games. He's often one of the first ones to post the news in relation to PSC, Footsore, any number. If you keep an eye on that page at all, you'll see his name underneath a lot of the headings as he works hard to keep us current. I think us expanding into historical as a whole means it's much more difficult to keep current. I rattled off maybe 8 to 10 new releases that were within a week period of each other for the last episode or the first episode of this season, and that was by far not all of them, so I've got a couple more for the next episode, and it'd be interesting to see how much actually comes out in these 2 weeks in between the two. This will touch Jim will like this. So what he asked for was the American War of Independence and some French-Vietnam War. Now, Jim's obviously covered some really nice stuff recently when it comes to that area, the second one's area of operations. He's touched on to the French in that area, as well as Vietnam War we've covered quite recently with the release of the new Northag stuff. And I think NAM 68, I want to say, is coming out as a rule set. Myself and Gianna backed a recent Kickstarter from WoW Buildings. It was the Vietnam setting, which comes with a heap of good stuff that's 3D printable. So we can even scale it, which is ideal. We can get to 15mm, we can get to 6mm and try and see what they look like then, or we can stick with 28mm. So lots of options for us to look into that, to produce the scenery, to make a table. So that's quite a cool one. Really like that. I think the question for those two will be what scale more than anything. It'll be very interesting. What's Jim? I can film hobbycraft with that if people are interested on camera. I thought your rack stuff was really good, dude. No pressure. No pressure. What was the other one? His final one was the Mexican-American War, which is quite a cool one. I know G's talked about the Alamo, strangely enough. I think originally like at 28mm, which to say would be crazy would be an understatement. I think just the volume of forces, that's not going to happen. I love the idea, G, but we need a bigger boat. Now, again, that one's catered for quite well in a number of ways. I think we can look into what the scale that best suits the table size that we'd want to achieve. I think that's the only way you can do it, other than if there's a miniatures range available for it. This being historical, there kind of always is something out there. The majority of metals, there's a few in plastics, barely any earth thins in resin. So it comes to the majority being metal, something we can normally get hold of. Now, we did get another one. So I've got Score right now, we've got Chris down, and I'm just jumping down to the Facebook page now because I do remember us getting another one, and it was about playing in microscale. Paul Blessing was looking at 6mm modern. Now, in fact, saying now more than ever, that's going to be achievable from a miniature scale. The number of STL files available these days for people with printers to produce their own forces when it comes to military-esque kit is ridiculous. So 100% we can do 6mm microscale. I know G did a comparison in a recent video. She put up the tanks next to each other. I think it was only, I want to say a few weeks back. With COVID, my perception of time has totally been skewed. So I have no idea how long ago it was. Seems like a few weeks back. It's definitely a video that will be available on sort of the back shows, the back videos for YouTube. Definitely won't be on Twitch anymore because I think they only stay on there for 28 days. What I will say is it was amazing how small jumps in scale were large jumps in how big or how small armor was, which is what we were looking at. 6mm will be really interesting, so infantry at 6mm is minute, and it bears the question, you know, what makes up your infantry detachments? Do you play them as a regiment? Do you play them as a squad? You don't play them as individuals for obvious sections. I had sections running through my head as well as squads. I can't separate my brain halves at the minute. Left and right are just not working. So if I go cross-eyed at any point and fall off my chair, that's why. It's probably because I've not drunk any of my brew for a bit. We'll go with that. This is turning into a right waffle on. What time are we on? 30 minutes in, I've not even touched on the subject matter properly yet. I've just been waffling. Well, if you're willing to watch it, I'll waffle for a bit longer. So yeah, we can definitely look at that as well. So I think those are the three main ones we got from outside our team, even though Chris is part of the team. Marty wanted pirates, as which I'm pretty sure Rasmus agreed because he's in the process of painting a lot of pirates. But saying that, he sort of reinforced it with pictures of ships and the list of stuff that he's having to paint. I think he won them as a prize from On Tabletop, so he got quite a lot, something like 60, I think, at the same time. It was brilliant, but I think it made him more work than he was expecting as well. So when it comes down to what to do next, the three that we sort of came up with initially, of which obviously we'll be looking at the suggestions that we received as well, were Pirates, Feudal Japan and Old West. Pretty sure I've said that in this already, so I'll not labour the point, so to speak. The Pirates, so these three projects and these projects I'm kind of getting a feel that it'd be nice to do the sort of Team USA. That's my northern accent. Just leave me alone. Team USA, so you still can't say A, versus the UK. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean the gameplay. I mean kind of the setup of it all. It it brings a commonality to what we do. With the 13 days equals 13 hours, we've put together the miniatures from both sides of the ocean. You know, the Atlantic being between us makes it not a short hop to drop stuff off. So I kind of ran with with a reasonable number of the militia. The good thing about militia is they're not uniformed soldiers. There's no commonality other than it's an AK of some sort that they carry normally. That's about it, unless they're carrying an RPG, which I managed to get 2 in. Goodbye, GRS. And it means that the force didn't look or won't look out of place when we mix in models that other people have painted. It's kind of like having different authors in a book. Sometimes you can really pick up that there's a difference and it takes a different style that doesn't always gel. So when it comes to doing the pirates or feudal Japan or, well, Old West is not too bad actually. Old West will be very mixed based on the characters that we end up playing with. If we move into the likes of Team Yankee, to the American War of Independence, to French Vietnam, to Mexican American, to the 6mm micro armor, having the 2 teams paint up probably a side each would be a better way of doing it, I think. I'd be interested to get your guys' opinion on that. It brings sort of one force looking, everything looking the same or from the same sort of, if it needs basing, if it needs certain iconography, if it's a certain nation, if it's a certain uniform, excuse me, then one person painting it will really bring it all together much better than us trying to sort of blend together 3 different paint styles. The joy of this for me is I love this stuff, so all 3 of these and the suggestions from the guys I'm more than happy to paint. I have no problem with any of that. The team over in the USA are still very busy. They're going to be producing the board all the way up till September, which means hurry up and pick, because then I can get a massive head start on them and just peer pressure the crap out of them, which is always nice because there's no competition between us at all. But where to go for models? Models. So for the 3 that we chose, I've had a look around, because regardless of whether it comes for 2nd or 3rd, over time I'd like to think we'll eventually get to it if it's popular. The Pirates one for me, I think Blood and Plunder. So I was looking through them and they have a really nice selection of models now. One thing I hadn't done for a while is go onto the site and have a look at what they currently had. The fact that they have the quite a wide range now, maybe 10 or 12 legendary commanders, I thought was excellent, because you really want that iconographic icon. Should we just go with icon? I don't think iconographic was a word. I don't think iconic was exactly what I was going for, but it's probably the right word, so let's just go with icon. But no, we'll go with iconic. Iconic is right. It's been a long day. The iconic legendary commanders from different nations means that you can have that sort of general on the boat, captain of the ship, the admiral of the fleet, whatever you want to call it. And they've got those extra details. They've got the frills, the cuffs, the buttons, the beards. They've got all the good stuff going on. So I'd love to get in amongst that, pick up one of them. I could almost see me picking my nation based on how much I like the commander. But to be honest, the models are all really good. The options after that are, Dutch, English, French, Native American, the Spanish, and there's an underlying faction as well, which is kind of a mix and match, which is really cool because you can pull stuff from the different nations to make a force that's just cohesive with all the stuff you like. Oh, hello. Because movie's in. Dude, you need some colour or artwork on my walls. Typical man room. Actually, it's a military room, which means if I mount anything on the walls, as you know, I then have to repair them after. I have to paint them after. And the discoloration of light from going around the pictures. I do have a picture. It's, let me get my finger to the right place. Oh, wrong side. Back. See that thing there that's sort of dark leaning against the wall? That is a picture. That's actually a picture of a couple of patches flying down a river. So I do have two pictures. The other one's just a small one. But I have one picture, if that makes sense. What about cleavage? I definitely missed something. I'll definitely concentrate on that later. Not mine. Hopefully it'll be somebody else's. The ships as well. There's a selection of ships that you can have that the crews can be mounted on for the ship-to-ship phases. I think you want that land-based element. If we came to a gaming table, you want that mix of being able to have a bit of a tear up on the water and then maybe some cannons and a small fort on land. Something to go on assault. But there's going to be other pirate games out there. I don't know if there's any as comprehensive, and pretty much I think we're going to go with quite an agnostic system. So for me, for Team UK, me and Ralph, go on Ralph! I think I would like us to go down the Blood and Plunder route, because there's some seriously nice models in there. Feudal Japan's a real tough one. There's so many gaming systems, and they're kind of different scales a little bit. How to put it? The Test of Honor series is not quite rank and file, but it has multiple models on a base. I feel that they're kind of more of a real scale, so they're a little smaller, and they have a good level of detail. There's any number of scales when it comes to, we can go down to, there's quite a few 10mm armies, 15mm armies where we can really put out some crazy numbers. But it depends what we go for. Difficult again without the poll being finished, and then maybe a second poll just to ask, things about scale and game systems and such. I'm a member of a patron called Titan Forge, and they do some really nice models for a skirmish level one, which is the Dragon Empire series. They do fantastical, but they also have historical sort of characters, such as Ashigaru Spearman, Ashigaru Bowman. They have the samurai. They have war banner holders with the massive fan banners, which look awesome. They have some Ronin. They have a shogun. What else have we got? I've got a list. Because otherwise I forget. Oh, they got some like geishas, which is quite interesting to have on the battlefield. But I suppose in the tents at the back they might be there, and a lot were assassins. They have actual assassins, not so much a battlefield thing, but for skirmish game, be a very interesting one. Ronin, I think I mentioned, and a few of the Blade Masters. The good thing about those are they're really detailed depending on what you can print. Both G and I can print considerable quality, so we could save ourselves a lot of money in producing those models and then painting them up differently to be opposing factions and going from there. I think that could be a real nice tear up. Ralph and I have mentioned a couple of times that we'd like to do a assassin game and work in some rules for stealth and almost fog of war, as the assassins kind of know where the guards are, but not exactly, especially once they move into the buildings. So these would fit really well into that as well. One thing I did like about it is, although it has fantasy elements, those fantasy elements, such as I was about to say Chinese, I have no idea where that came from. The lions that would be at the doors, steps, are in there as mounts for cavalry, but will make perfect scenery once painted up in a bronze. So some of the stuff that you would think couldn't be used will be used to make scenery. Another part of that Kickstarter patron, although it was a Kickstarter, is Bloodfields from Titan Forge, which just recently finished. The pack comes with bases that are themed and scenery packs, so there's a few buildings and such, as well as archways, walkways, walled sections, the type of stuff you get in gardens, and the tiered buildings, which is really cool. I think we could get a lot of that done on a low budget, which kind of sells me on it if we go down skirmish route. And if we don't, I think it might be something we do anyway. Ninja, Ralph saying, ninjas. It's all about the ninjas. Shurikens, swords, wearing black pajamas, running on rooftops. We've all seen the old films, the wire work. Should be interesting how we factor that into it. Pirate cleavage. They had wenches. This is very true. In fact, I think some of the models available from Blood and Plunder are wenches, and I think you can also get some sort of non-affiliate, so the civilians to move around to make it like going into a port rather than just pirates versus pirates all the time. The only tough part of pirates are the actual ships. We could try scratch build something one of these days. Yeah, but again, Blood and Plunder sell ships. They're varying different styles of the time as well. So it, we can quite happily use them, or again we can look at. There is quite a lot of, again, coming back to what we can print now. There's a lot of options these days. I think there's a lot of, maybe not historically correct, but close enough that we give us a good base point, and then we could modify and scale to meet the requirements of what would be historically correct. It's probably the best way of putting it. The other good thing is a lot of these ships, when they come as a file or from a pre-established company like File Up Games and the production of Blood and Plunder, have the facility to potentially take off a section to play the lower decks of the ship. So games can become 3D in the sense of not just a flat tabletop with what you can see, but potentially going down into the ships and having to get to the armory and having to deal with the sailors below, pirates below. The final one, Old West. Now this is a love of G's. I think this is the best way we can steer away from Alamo, if I'm honest. So I'm all for this, 100% behind this. Now this is from a quick search around. This for me has got the most potential when it comes to model ranges that are already established. There's quite a few good ones. A lot of the characters are covered from different times in history. The thing we discussed, and we discussed it, I believe, on the recent episode, and if not on the episode, we discussed it after, was, as Jim would like to tell me, a war in the West is like 9 people. That just means an army's maybe 4 or 5. It's brilliant. I don't know what the problem is. So when it comes to wars and such, it's not quite the same. Things like Gunfight OK Corral, there's a number of rule systems out there now that we can dig into and really have a mooch around. The 3 sort of companies I looked at that I did have something about each of them for me was Knuckle Duster Miniatures. They do some really nice range. It's a considerably comprehensive range as well. They've obviously been doing it for a while because they've produced so many minis and they're really good quality. I really like what they've done. The second I found was Wargames Foundry. Now, these guys are, what I really liked about these guys especially was when they produced each of the models, they produced one on foot and one on horseback. And for some of the others, that's not necessarily true. So, it's great to have Jesse James, for example, on foot. But as soon as if you wanted to go to a posse chasing him away and play a scenario where you're moving across open ground or travelling between somewhere and get ambushed, it's rare they're going to be on foot. Not going to lie, them boots didn't look comfy then. I doubt they're that comfy now. The joy of this then is you've really, when you buy one mini, you get 2, and it opens up a different aspects of the game, opens up movement, opens up a different style of play, opens up somebody stealing your horse, you can go out and shoot them. Great stuff. Everything story driven that you could think of can kind of come from that. The Old West is a gold mine for skirmish. There you go. Jim's all over that as well. Knuckle Duster Minis are epic, painted up to the 9 for the dad's 148 train set. Oh, sweet. So Jim, for example, is already on board. He's already got models painted. He's ahead of us as usual. Is the answer to that. The final one I found, which came through a Kickstarter, and has a slightly different scaling. I think the first 2 are pretty much 28mm, which is kind of what we go for normally, and kind of what I would normally go for. But I'm always willing to stretch to the 32 and still keep the same sort of scenery. I understand it's a considerable jump in the height of minis, although most will be measured 28 to the eye and 32 would not necessarily be the same, especially with a game such as the Old West, where the heights of different characters will vary. So Billy the Kid will, be whatever, 5'6", 5'7", whereas some of the other characters will be over 6 feet. Therefore, you've got the disparity of height anyway. Black Scorpion miniatures were the ones that grabbed myself the most, and those would be the ones I'd be looking to pick up to do the project. They would be totally reliant on the rest of the team agreeing that 32mm would be okay for me to do, which would be a discussion we could have. And if not, the other two do some great minis as well, so it's not a massive drama at all. The Black Scorpion miniatures for me were just, I don't know if it's because they've been sort of painted up on the site by what looks like somebody very good or a team, that does it for commissions. They sold themselves really nicely. There was various elements that were not named. The girls that work the taverns, the sheriff, it didn't have, the others have the same unnamed characters, but they didn't have quite the same aesthetics, I think I want to say. The look of them grabbed me a bit more. There was some real vibrancy, and this again could be the colours that was chosen by the painter just drawing me in more than the colours painted on the other ones. The good thing is, with a bit of weathering and dust, you can pretty much bring a lot of that back if you find it too comic booky or too fake. So I'm a big believer in, I will pay the extra money and go the extra mile to make a force I love the look of, over than save the money, not need to do as much to get a force that I will like but not love. It's a personal thing. At the minute, I'm trying to build up to getting just a single force for sort of every game system I like. And with that in mind, there's so many out there when you start actually looking into what you want that it is a rest of the life hobby for me. There'll be stuff that comes out, but even stuff that's just out now, I think I would struggle. Before I lost my eyesight and the ability to hold a paintbrush, I think I'll struggle to paint it all of the stuff I want today. Maybe when I finish my job that I'm in now and have some time off and really dig into it, I can smash through them a lot more. But I'm not the fastest painter, as you guys have seen, and unfortunately I love to clean models to the point where I should really stop and don't and carry on. So we'll see how that goes on the personal front. But yeah, I mean, start over at 28mm, so it's difficult. Ralph's put up a link to the Dead Man's Hand, so Great Escape Games, and this is what we're kind of looking for from not only the guys, my team that are online now, but the guys out there. When we have you do these polls and select these projects, comment, tell us the miniature ranges we should be looking at, because I have no doubt that there'll be stuff out there that none of us have ever seen due to proximity, different country, just not come across because we only know a certain amount of the game, because Google algorithms don't push it high enough in the list that we don't go to page 16 to find them. So yeah, smash stuff on there, comment, like, just keep going, keep hitting us with your thoughts. As I say, we've got our list now from Skullback, from Chris, with Mr. Blessing. I'll call you Mr. because I almost forgot your name, which is really bad. And we'll sit and we'll stew over the list of stuff that you guys have took the time to comment and mention to us, and look at them as well. So I think that's going to be it for tonight. I think we're not going to run much longer. It's coming up to, how long are we on? About 50 minutes, considering I came on with nothing to paint. That's not too bad. I think the last one was a lot shorter. I hope I haven't bored you all to tears. Lots of cool things coming. 13 days equals 13 hours by September, guaranteed. That's going to be interesting. I can't wait to try and kill them all in Jim's transit game. I can't wait for G and Marty to send us pictures of when the table starts to come together and we start to see the walls being built and the compound coming up. It's going to be an absolute doozy, and I'm stoked about it. Seeing sort of 40, 50 insurgents on the table at once, and a GRS, small team GRS, a few diplomatic service. It's just going to be really interesting to see that dynamic and how the spawn points work and the ideas for the rules. It's going to be very cool, very, very cool. I can't wait to see just the playtesting of it that'll be done, in house before we get to that. I think one final thing I'm going to mention before I go is Gianni declared to the definite 100% behind a team that February next year we'll be running sort of an in-house little number of games, of which a few of these should feature, especially if these become the future projects. Strangely enough, American War of Independence we've talked about for that. We talked about Vietnam for that. We did talk about the Mexican-American War for that. We talked about pirates for that. We talked about the West for that. I think the only one that wasn't in that discussion was feudal Japan. And depending what becomes top of the poll, if the models are built and they're ready to go, maybe that will as well. That event will be done through G, and we're essentially going to be just putting it out there as content this first time. Depending on the interest and stuff of those videos and that day, it might be something where in the future we look to, make it a physical representation that the public can come to. But for this first one, we'll sort of keep it in-house, but hell, we're going to get some content from that. Jim's going to be smashing it when it comes to the hex-based games. So they'll all be coming. He's going to have like Father Christmas sack that's just the magical, endless, keep pulling stuff out when it comes to the likes of Panzer Leader, Panzer General, Avalon Games, Avalon Hill, sorry. Can't wait. The only thing that can stop me getting there is if I need to wait for 2 weeks before I can get out of quarantine. Fingers crossed that won't be the case, but I'm not even going to book the flight till I know that. So as it stands, I'm just waiting out. My bag's packed, I'm just waiting for the go. So I'm going to call it a night there. I've stretched it out to just over 50 minutes. Game event in Chicago, says Jim. Hope that you guys that watch this get something from it. Kind of talk down the paths that we're looking at, the avenues we're going forward. Really appreciate the guys taking the time to comment on the posts that we've been putting up. Keep looking at Facebook. Keep looking at YouTube. Keep an eye out for us on Twitch. We're hitting up multiple sites. We're looking to improve every year, every season. And fingers crossed next week, if it's either Sergeant Sitrep or something else, the video content will be recorded, but hopefully you'll see a much more polished version. So with that, I'm going to call it a night. You take care out there. I will catch you all next Tuesday. For those of you that are looking for more content this week, Thursday night, check out G and Marty, who'll be putting some content, maybe even a Riskany if they're unable to make it. And Big Jim's there on Sunday, smashing it out with the historical goodness. So take care out there, and I will see you all soon. Night night.